So Spider-Man Brand New Day just came out, and oh my god, it was insane. And also, yes, before you ask, this is a real life-size Spider-Man statue. I built it myself. Here's the evidence for that. And stay till the end of this video because I have an insane theory that nobody's talking about yet. So anyway, whether you've seen the movie or you're about to watch the movie, this video is really just to get you excited for what you've seen, what you're about to see, and what's to come. So first off, the things that we see in this Spider-Man movie, I'm not sure anyone was really expecting. And while yes, I'm sure we've all seen the leaks on Twitter and Reddit and Instagram and YouTube, the events that take place in this storyline were kind of insane, right? And I'm meaning that in the best way possible. Now, I will say I am trying to keep things broad for the people who haven't seen the movie yet, but if you have seen it, I really think you'll like the theory at the end. Now, going into the theater, everyone was kind of comparing this to Captain America's Civil War. And I get why they were saying that. I mean, yes, from what we saw, it's a grounded street-level movie with a hero operating alone in a city that no one knows who he is. But honestly, I feel like that comparison kind of undersells it just a little bit because looking back at The Winter Soldier, it was about Steve Rogers discovering that the institution that he trusted was corrupt, right? And Brand New Day is about something a little more personal, which I feel like is a pretty common theme in most Spider-Man movies. It's a lot of self-reflection and discovery. But you know, this time around, it was about a guy who was genuinely alone. We see that in all of the trailers. Peter Parker had been Spider-Man full-time for years, and he has no support system. Going into the movie, MJ and Ned have no idea who he is, and if you saw No Way Home, you know why that is. And I mean, Tony Stark, well, we all know what path he's going down. But the movie does a good job at taking that plotline seriously in a way that the previous movies never really did. Like the scene from the trailer where Peter Parker goes into a coffee shop that he and Ned used to hang out in, and Ned walks in and Peter just watches him from across the room. That scene hit me harder than anything that we saw in No Way Home. And I love No Way Home. I loved the movie. I'm a huge Spider-Man fan. But come on. But where this movie takes a twist comes with Peter's powers mutating. You know, in the movie, we see Peter waking up in a web cocoon with organic webbing and enhanced senses beyond anything he has experienced before. And now at first, he's terrified because he's already operating at the edge of what he can control. And now his body is changing in ways he doesn't even understand, and he can't even predict them. So ultimately in the movie, this leads him to go see Bruce Banner, who's teaching at Empire State University. And after talking with each other, Banner builds something based on his own Hulk inhibitor, which is a device that basically allows him to be Bruce Banner and the Hulk, you know, stays put, which honestly, looking back, what was the whole point of self-discovery with the Hulk if we're just gonna do this? That's a completely different story, it doesn't even matter. But basically, this is just a microchip that suppresses the mutation so Peter can function like a normal person. And then without going into too much detail, eventually in the movie, he makes a decision to embrace what he's becoming rather than to fight it, because fighting it is actively killing him, which is pretty awesome. And now this next part, which involves Sadie Sinks, because this performance is going to be dominating the conversation about this movie for the next couple of months, and I think you already know what it's going to be about. Yes, Jean Grey is in this movie. We knew this. Come on, we knew this. I mean, the interviews.
So let's pretend here if I walked into a store and bought some jeans, Grey for instance.
And what about them?
What a great answer.
Keeping this a secret has genuinely been one of the most creative things that Marvel has done in years, because in this movie, she starts off more as a villain and is a character that has been through some terrible things. We find out that Metzger, one of the main characters in the movie, who's the head of the Department of Damage Control, have been hunting mutants and, for lack of a better word, abusing them. And what was done to Jean specifically is dark enough that once you find out the full details too, you'll completely understand why she decided to come out swinging and be the villain at the start of this. Now, her whole body jacking ability thing is so cool, and it's basically where she starts to take control of other people and use them as weapons. It is so unsettling in exactly the right way that I really haven't seen in a Marvel movie, and I really just want to give a huge round of applause for this part of the film, because you're really just not sure if what you're watching is actually Jean Grey or the person she's controlling, and just that little twist and confusion adds such a coolness to the movie. But what I find most interesting about her character is at the end of the movie, Spider-Man convinces her to not do something that she might regret, and it doesn't feel like your typical superhero save the day moment, because it seems as though Metzger is not going to face real consequences, but rather going to face lighter charges from a system that, to be honest, he was a part of, and Jean knows that. But after making her decision, she leaves to find others like her. And I mean, that's all you need for an X-Men setup right there. And it's the most organic way Marvel has ever introduced that concept into the MCU. Now, I can make a whole other video about the dynamic between the Punisher and Spider-Man throughout this movie, because while the actors are best friends in real life and even helped each other film their audition tapes for the Punisher and Spider-Man roles,
he was actually in my original Punisher audition tape. It was the two of us.
in this movie, they're just kind of two people who need the exact same thing at the same time, and who are smart enough to just stay out of each other's way. But there is a moment near the end of the movie that kind of tells us everything we need to know about where this relationship is going to go, and kind of what it already is. Now, lastly, the post-credit scene and my personal theory of what is happening at the end of this movie. We see that Ned's Spider Tracker, the app that he built to try and find Spider-Man, who saved him in NJ so many times, sends a notification that Peter Parker is no longer on Earth. Now, this is clearly a setup for Avengers Doomsday, in my opinion, and there are rumors that Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man opens Doomsday, which could mean the film is starting in a universe without the MCU's Peter Parker in it, which would be interesting. We know that it takes place on 3 separate Earths, which I think could be a really cool choice and tells you a lot about how Marvel is structuring this next phase. But here's exactly what I think is happening, and this is my opinion, so please feel free to disagree with me in the comments or insult me on a personal level, whatever you feel like doing. But I don't think Peter's mutation is done. Now, the tracker shows that he's not on Earth, but I don't think he was taken. So let me explain. In 2005, there's a comic storyline called The Other, which parts of Brand New Day have been heavily inspired by. But basically, Peter starts dying and his powers fail, and he goes to Bruce Banner for help.
Excuse me, Dr. Banner?
Sound familiar? And he ends up going through this type of death and rebirth cycle. But the part that nobody's talking about is that in those comics, this happens specifically because the multiverse is under threat. The web of life and destiny is being damaged, and when that happens, spider totems across every universe start evolving. And if you've watched the Spider-Verse movies, you know what this means. But Brand New Day ends with the tracker showing Peter no longer on Earth. My honest opinion is that he didn't get taken or really go anywhere, but rather pulled by the web to somewhere in the multiverse where he's needed. Hence, what we know about Doomsday and him destroying the multiverse. It would make sense if he is getting pulled somewhere to help. But I don't know, that's just what I think after seeing this movie. Let me know what you think, and have a good day.